Among the most powerful men in the city of Omembala was Derek Nnamdi, the man people called the Golden Lion of Omembala. At just 30, Derek was already a legend. Heir to Nnamdi Group of companies, he controlled empires in real estate, oil, logistics, and finance. He was the type of man who walked into a boardroom and silence fell. His wristwatch alone could pay someone's house rent for 5 years. Inside his private estate, widely known as Derek Villa, housed different modern elegant mansions and pricey cars and SUVs, to mention a few. He owned several private jets, more than some country presidents that bore his company names. People said he had it all: money, influence, connections, power, but no one saw the battle inside of him. Not even his father, Chief Bartholomew Nnamdi, an aging business tycoon who thought success was the cure for every wound. Not even his colleagues, who praised his charm, never saw how lonely he felt at night inside his big mansions. Derek was a man haunted by betrayal. A few years ago, he had fallen for a woman named Lola. Beautiful and elegant, the kind of woman who knew which fork to use at diplomatic dinners, everyone thought she was the one. Even Derek had trusted her with everything, even his company secrets. But behind his back, Lola was leaking those secrets to a rival firm in exchange for stock shares and luxury condos abroad. They went their separate ways, and the scandal almost destroyed him. And from that day, Derek built walls, tall walls around his heart and his soul. He didn't trust any woman anymore. He dated casually, smiled for the cameras, but deep inside, he was empty. So he started doing something no one expected from a billionaire. Every Friday night, Derek would remove his Rolex, ditch his custom suits and fancy accessories, and wear plain jeans and simple top. He'd sneak past his domestic workers, including his personal driver, and take an old car from the compound. He would drive himself through the bustling city to the forgotten places of Omembala, places his friends called danger zones. He would stop at the slums all alone, sharing food to the less privileged and beggars even at night. Sometimes he goes to under bridges to do the same.
Why?
Because there, away from the flashing city lights and fake smiles, he felt closer to something real. In the middle of poverty, he saw raw humanity, people struggling, laughing, surviving without filters. He brought groceries as much as he could carry. Not for charity, not for fame, but to feel human again. It was during one of these routine escapes that he first saw her. She was seated alone on the roadside pavement, wearing torn clothes but still looked clean amidst other beggars. She wasn't begging, just sitting. She didn't look like the others. Her name, though he didn't know it yet, was Anulika. Something about her stopped Derek in his tracks. There was a strange stillness around her, a quiet dignity, as if she carried secrets older than the city itself. He stood there for minutes, holding nylon bags of groceries, unsure why he was suddenly nervous. And then their eyes met. Derek exhaled and stepped closer. "Good evening," he said gently. She didn't move. "I brought some food. Thought you might need them." Still, silence. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was low, calm, but firm. "I don't need pity. I am not a charity case." "It's not pity, just groceries," Derek responded. She paused. Then slowly she reached out, like someone who had been hurt too many times to trust easily. She took the groceries. Not gratefully, not rudely, just quietly. Derek nodded and walked away, his heart strangely heavy. That night, he couldn't sleep. There were thousands of homeless people in Omembala. But something about her had shaken him. Not because of beauty, though even under dirt and torn clothes, her features were striking. But because something in his spirit whispered, "This woman is not what she seems." By morning, hustlers rushed out chasing daily bread. But beneath the bridge on Akemba Road, where the rich never looked twice, Anuli opened her eyes to another day of invisibility. The rumbling yellow-color minibuses zoomed past her sleeping spot, shaking the ground like mini earthquakes. She was used to it. What she wasn't used to was the memory of a man's eyes watching her the night before. Kind eyes, gentle voice, grocery in a nylon bag. She had met many men in the streets before, men who either mocked her or wanted something in return. But that one was different. He didn't ask her name. He didn't stare at her body. He didn't act superior. He just left her with food and walked away. Still, Anuli told herself not to care. She had survived too many betrayals to fall for kind eyes. Because Anuli Nwabugo Chukwuma was not just another homeless girl. She was Princess Annulika of Umu-Erze Kingdom, the only daughter of King Chukwuma the Great, born into royalty, raised behind palace walls, trained in etiquette, diplomacy, languages, and spiritual tradition. But fate had torn the crown from her head. Years ago, when her father fell ill mysteriously, the royal palace grew divided. Her uncle, Prince Erzechi, began manipulating the chiefs and elders, spreading rumors that Anuli's mother was from a cursed bloodline. Because of his lies, the elders refused to let a girl ascend the throne, even though tradition allowed it. And then, the fire happened. One night, the royal palace went up in flames. Anuli's mother disappeared. Her father the king, barely breathing, was locked away in a secret chamber. And Anuli, she escaped through the palace back gate, with nothing but a nightdress and a pendant her mother had placed around her neck that night. A golden pendant shaped like a rising sun wrapped in a snake, the sacred crest of Umu-Erze's true bloodline. For 5 years, Anuli had hidden in plain sight, changing names, washing plates in local restaurants, sleeping under bridges and fleeing any place where her face was recognized. She had no money, no protection, no friends, only that pendant and the promise her mother whispered before vanishing. Your crown is not gone. It is waiting for you, at the appointed time. That time had not come until now. Meanwhile, back in the heart of Omembala's elite zone, Derek Nnamdi sat in his penthouse apartment staring at his breakfast, untouched eggs, fried yam, and plantain. His chef stood awkwardly nearby. "Should I bring coffee, sir?" the man asked. Derek kept mute. His mind wasn't on breakfast. It wasn't on his business calls. Not even on the Forbes article calling him Africa's most eligible billionaire. His mind was on her, that homeless girl. Something inside him itched, a kind of spiritual unease. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story. But he felt like he had seen her before. Not on the streets, but in a dream. He shook the image from his head and grabbed his car keys and left. By sunset that day, Derek had returned to the bridge. But she was gone. He checked around, but she was nowhere to be found. He left the things he bought and a note for her. "I don't know who you are, but I'd like to. I'll be here every Friday night. D." He didn't sign his full name. He didn't want to scare her off with wealth. And he kept his word. Every Friday he came back. Sometimes he'd see her. Other nights, she was nowhere to be found. But slowly, she began to speak to Derek. She never told him her real name. And he never told her his. But their souls were already learning each other. What Derek didn't know was that powerful eyes were watching him from afar. From across the city, in a hidden chamber surrounded by candles and incantations, Prince Erzechi, now the self-declared regent of Umu-Erze, sat with a native priest who stared into a magical bowl of water. "She is still alive," the priest muttered. Prince Erzechi's eyes widened. "Where?" "In the city, close to the one with the golden aura." The prince stood. "Derek Nnamdi." The priest nodded slowly. Prince Erzechi's face darkened in anger. "If those two meet, truly meet, my reign is finished." He gripped his staff tightly. "It's time to end this, before the prophecy awakens." Meanwhile, in the city, it was raining heavily. Derek stood under the concrete shelter by the bridge, holding a plastic bag of grocery and warm food. Thunder roared and lightning cracked like ancestral drums that shook the entire city. He was about to give up. He had waited over an hour, his heart pounding every time he thought he saw her shadow. But she wasn't coming. Then, as he was about to leave, a soft voice behind him spoke. "Why do you keep coming back?" Derek froze. He turned slowly. There she stood. "Because I said I would." She stepped forward slowly, lips trembling, not from fear, but from something deeper. "I told myself I would never talk to you again," she whispered. "That it was safer that way. But every week, I came back." Derek nodded. "So did I." They both stood in silence. They were two strangers with no last names, no past, only a growing bond that made no sense. Finally, he spoke. "I'm Derek," she said. "I know. I saw your face on a billboard last week," she added. "You're a billionaire. The whole world knows your name. You don't belong here." He stood shocked, but stepped closer, voice low and sincere. "Maybe this is exactly where I belong." Her heart skipped. He gently handed her the bag. She looked up at him and said, "My name is Anuli." Derek's eyes widened. There was something about the way she said it, soft, yet powerful. He had heard many names in his life, but this one struck his soul like a song he'd forgotten. "Anuli," he repeated, tasting it like fine wine. She nodded. "But that's not the full truth." She hesitated. "I can't tell you everything. Not yet. And if you stay close to me, you'll be in danger." "Danger?" he asked. She stepped back. "I shouldn't have come tonight." "Wait, Anuli." But she was already running, and disappeared into the shadows of the bridge. Back in Umu Erze Palace, inside a secret shrine beneath the throne room, Prince Erzechi paced restlessly. The priest had returned, this time with a warning. "The girl has made contact with Derek," the prince hissed. The priest nodded. "If she tells him the truth, the bloodline will reunite with power, and your reign will be over." Prince Erzechi slammed his staff on the floor. "Then she must die. And so must Derek." 2 days passed. Derek couldn't sleep. Her voice haunted him. "My name is Anuli." That name, something about it stirred deep memories, memories of the old folk tales he heard as a boy. Stories about the royal family, and the princess with fire in her blood and a crown in her soul. A girl named Anulika. Derek sat up in bed. Could it be? Determined, he went to the local archive library the next morning. He paid researchers handsomely who pulled up files, royal records, old newspapers and photos. Then he saw it. An old newspaper clipping. Princess Annulika Chukwuma. Palace claims she fled after traitorous plot. No trace found. And beside the article was her photo. Derek's blood ran cold. It was her. Not just Anuli, but Princess Annulika. The homeless girl he had fallen in love with. Was royalty. That night, he returned to the bridge. She wasn't there again. So he left a note and grocery. "Anuli, I know who you are now. And I'm not afraid. Whatever happened in that palace, you're not alone anymore. Let me protect you." Meanwhile, far from the city, in a compound hidden deep in the sacred hills, a mysterious old woman with gray dreadlocks, after meditation spoke aloud to no one. "The sun and the snake have aligned. The crown shall rise again, but not without a battle." And somewhere, deep in Anuli's spirit, she felt it too, the beginning of trouble. Midnight, Anuli woke up with a sharp gasp. Her heart was racing. Her breath uneven, something in her spirit had shifted. "They've found me," she whispered. Without wasting time, she grabbed her small backpack bag that held the last thing she owned, a royal pendant, a half-burned photo of her mother, and a scroll with a family seal. She left immediately as she didn't have much time left. Derek didn't go home that night. He sat in his car by the bridge, waiting as if he was compelled to. His head was spinning. "If she's a princess," he muttered, "why is she on the streets? What could make royalty run from her own kingdom?" Then he heard something, a scream. Not far off, near the abandoned warehouse. Derek's instincts kicked in. He grabbed a flashlight and bolted from the car. Anuli was surrounded by 3 men with charms around their necks. Not regular thugs, palace hunters, trained in dark tracking arts. "Don't fight us, Anulika," one hissed. "You were warned." "I won't go back," she snapped. They grabbed her from behind. "We only need you at the palace," the leader growled. "Dead or alive." Just then, flashlight. "Hey, let her go." Derek's voice thundered from the shadows. The hunters turned, momentarily distracted. Anuli seized the moment. Bam! She broke free and ran straight towards Derek. "Run!" she screamed. And they escaped unhurt. They continued running until they got to Derek's car and zoomed off. While they were driving to Derek's villa, Anuli questioned. "Why did you come for me, It was too dangerous for a person of your class to risk your life just for me. I came for you because I love you, he whispered. Even if you're a queen, I'd rather die beside you than live without you. Anuli was shocked to hear that from Derek. But you barely know me. I have known you enough to tell you what my heart feels for you. She kept quiet and looked away, unsure if he meant what he said. Meanwhile, in the hills of Erze forest, the old grey-dreaded woman sat before a large ancient drum. She whispered, "The battle has begun, and now, our Johnny the Earth must answer." She hit the drum once. Doom. In the shrine below Erze Palace, the priest felt the spiritual effect of the drum. "She's activated the bond," the priest gasped. "Love has unlocked the first gate. Then make them disappear forever." Prince Erzechi roared. "It is not possible. The gods are with them." Anuli and Derek finally arrived at Derek's home, and he welcomed her into his villa. They sat down in the living room. She was amazed how huge and beautiful the house was. "Now tell me everything. No more secrets," Derek insisted. She nodded. Then slowly, she told him everything. Who she was and why she ran away from her kingdom. She also spoke the truth about the betrayal in the palace, and the forbidden prophecy surrounding her birth, and how her return could either restore the kingdom or destroy it forever. Derek sat quietly, watching her like someone seeing her for the first time. "So, you were born into royalty, but your own blood chased you from your home." "Yes, because of a prophecy spoken before I even took my first breath." Then Anuli sat beside Derek, holding the scroll the mother gave her before the night of the fire. It read, "In the year of the 2 moons, a child shall be born with fire in her blood and truth in her voice. She will rise above kings, but her love will shake thrones. Her survival will determine the fate of the land." "That's me," Anuli whispered. "The stars aligned when I was born. The royal seers warned my father, King Chukwuma, that I would bring either salvation or ruin to the entire kingdom." "So, your father banished you?" Anuli shook her head. "No. He loved me. But others in the palace didn't. My uncle, Prince Erzechi, was hungry for power. When my father the king fell ill, my uncle began spreading lies that my mother and I were cursed, that my love life would doom the land. So they hunted you?" "Yes. On my 18th birthday, they set fire to my chamber and the entire palace burned down. I managed to escape with the help of my nanny. Since then, I've lived like a ghost, running, hiding, surviving." Derek's eyes burned. "But you're not a ghost anymore. You're a queen. And I swear to the gods, I'll stand with you." "Even if it costs you everything?" she asked. "Yes, even if it costs me my life," he responded. Suddenly, a slow knock at the door, thump, thump, thump. Anuli and Derek froze. "Stay here," he said. He opened it, and standing there was Mama Obi, a shriveled old woman with gray braided hair and a magical ancient staff that glows. He welcomed her in. "My children, time is no longer your friend." Anuli gasped. "You? From the forest shrine?" "Yes," the woman croaked. "The spirits sent me. The time has come to return. Erze is bleeding. The people are suffering. And only the child of prophecy can heal the land. But I'm not ready." "You don't have a choice," Mama Obi interrupted. "The crown is calling you. And the one beside you. He carries a secret even he doesn't know." Anuli turned to Derek. "What secret?" Mama Obi stepped closer. "Your lover is not who he thinks he is. His blood is not ordinary." She told them a brief story. A long time ago in Erze, a child was born with a birthmark of a royal flame on his body indicating a royal blood betrothed to the unborn princess of Erze kingdom. The mother passed after his birth. When he became the target of power-hungry Prince Erzechi, a smart midwife hid the child without any traces. When the midwife grew old and lay on her deathbed, she called out to her servant, "Tell the queen, I have kept a secret. The boy is alive." "Which boy, Mama?" the servant questioned. "The child they said died during childbirth. I saved him and sent him away, far from the kingdom." "Where did you send him?" The old woman smiled. To the city. The mark is on his body, shaped like the royal flame. After that she breathed her last. Back at Derek Villa, Anuli stared at Derek in shock. Take off your shirt. What? Now. Confused, he obeyed. And there it was. A strange flame-shaped birthmark on his chest. It's real, Anuli whispered. You're a prince. No, that's impossible. I was raised in an orphanage. I don't even know who my parents were. Mama Obi nodded slowly. You are chosen a prince by the gods who knew King Chukwuma would join his ancestors without a male heir. You are the rightful heir, the one who was supposed to rule alongside Anulika. Silence. Derek stumbled back. I'm royalty. Not just royalty. My betrothed. Anuli answered. They held their hands together. Mama Obi began chanting. 2 heirs, 1 destiny. If you run from it now, Umu Erze will fall. But if you unite, heart, body, and spirit, the throne will be restored. Boom. Suddenly, a loud noise outside. Derek peeped through the window. They've found us, the palace guards. He whispered. Run now to the sacred hills. There you will meet the ancestral kings and queens. Derek said to Anuli. Let's end this. Together, he grabbed a flashlight. Guards from Umu Erze had tracked Anuli to the villa using old spiritual relics, but with Mama Obi's protection, they escaped unseen, running through the backyard of the big villa. They ran until they escaped from Derek's villa into the bushes. At the edge of a thick forest, they stood at a narrow path winding through tall trees. Is this it? Derek asked. Yes, Anuli said. The sacred hills of Augwagwu are through here. That's where my ancestors sleep. If the prophecy is true, that's where our destiny begins. And if it's a trap, then we fight. Or we die trying. The journey was brutal. 4 hours, they walked facing numerous challenges, steep hills, rivers that hissed like snakes, and strange illusions that tried to break them. This place, it tests your mind, Derek muttered. It's the spirit of the hills. They only open the way for those whose hearts are pure, Anuli replied. They reached a massive stone gate shaped like a lion's mouth. On either side were ancient carvings of Obinna the Great and Queen Nena, Anuli's grandparents. What should we do now? Derek whispered. Touch the entrance door, Anuli urged. Only you can. Derek summoned courage and moved towards the entrance door. Suddenly, the ground shook. The gates creaked open with a glowing bright light. They entered the sacred chamber carved deep into the mountain. Strange firelight glowed from the walls, casting blue shadows on the stone. And then, they appeared, ancient kings and queens of Umu Erze, standing in a circle of power. Their eyes burned with wisdom. One stepped forward. It was King Obinna himself, Anuli's grandfather. My granddaughter, his voice echoed like thunder and wind. You have grown strong. Anuli fell to her knees. Grandfather, she called. You have fulfilled the first part of the prophecy. He turned to Derek. Your name is not Derek. Your name is Abidike. You were born and hidden by the stars for such a time as this. Derek, Abidike, as revealed, was covered in shock. But I'm not ready to rule, he lauded. You are not alone. She is your sword. You are her shield. Together, you are unstoppable. Suddenly a golden crown appeared, floating in mid-air. Take the crown. Return to Umu Erze. But beware. Prince Erzechi is not bowing without a fight. Immediately he took the crown, the ancestral kings and queens disappeared and they hurriedly left the sacred hills. After so many hours in the forest without knowing which direction to take, they found Mama Obi waiting beneath an iroko tree. She stood there with her staff glowing. My time is near, she said. But you must go on. Mama Obi, we need you, Anuli voiced out. No, you never needed me. You just needed to remember who you are. She later pressed 2 golden bracelets into their hands. These were your mother's, she said. When the moment comes, they will protect you. Then she sat under the tree, closed her eyes, and faded like smoke into the wind. At dawn Derek and Anuli approached the borders of Erze. As they crossed into Erze, the land looked sick, rivers dried up, crops and animals dead. The people stared at them in disbelief. Some recognized her. "It's her! Princess Annulika has returned," they shouted. They continued chanting and followed them. And then the guards came. But Derek stepped forward. "We are the heirs," he shouted. "And we come in peace." The air around Erze was heavy jubilation. Hope sparked like dry leaves under fire as the news spread. Princess Annulika had returned, and she wasn't alone. The villagers gathered in front of the palace gate in jubilation, chanting victory songs. Derek, now revealed as Prince Abidike, stood boldly at the palace gate, the long-lost heir of Erze kingdom. But the guards refused to bow. Instead, they stopped him from entering the palace. "Seize him!" barked the commander, one of Erzechi's loyal dogs. But without warning, a tall old woman with natural afro hair and eyes like hot coal appeared. "Know the truth and know it now," she shouted. "These are the children of Erze's true crown." The guards hesitated. It was Madame I.J., former chief steward of the palace, believed to have vanished during the arson attack on the palace. "We have waited many years for this day. Let no loyal soul draw blood for a false king." The palace gates burst open, not with violence, but with the roar of rising truth. She was joined by multitude of other palace workers and villagers. Far inside the palace, Erzechi stood inside the underground shrine pacing like a caged lion. Almost all the villagers were turning against him except his loyal guards. "They dare defy me," he growled, his voice trembling. "After all I've done." Meanwhile, Anuli and Abidike were led by Madame I.J. through a hidden tunnel behind the palace stables. Torches lit the stone walls as they descended deeper beneath the palace. When they got to the sealed underground vault and opened the door, standing mysteriously was the golden ancient royal staff of Omenka, the mighty royal staff of authority of Erze kingdom. "Only one with the royal flame can lift it," Madame I.J. said. Derek reached out and gripped it, and they turned back. Just as they were about to get to the surface, a scream echoed through the tunnel. Derek quickly hid the golden staff inside Anuli's bag, and they rushed to the surface, only to find one of their own, tied up. His mouth was gagged at the tunnel entrance. "It's a trap!" Abidike shouted, but it was too late. From the shadows came palace guards. They held Derek from behind and seized him. They dragged him to Prince Erzechi deep inside the underground shrine. While Anuli and Madame I.J. escaped, they met Zara, the servant girl who had always been kind to Anuli, who often smuggled her food during her days of hiding. "Zara," Anuli whispered. She secretly gave a small amulet to Anuli. "You'll need this when the spirits rise." She vanished into the shadows before anyone could stop her. When they reached at the Forest of Whispers, Madame I.J. stopped. "You must go alone," she said. "No one else can pass the threshold. Your spirit must awaken what lies hidden." "Anuli, if anything happens," she cut in. "Nothing will," she whispered. "I will return, for you, Abidike and Erze." Then, with a deep breath, Princess Annulika stepped into the forest. She wandered through thick vines and glowing moss. She walked for hours until she came upon a river. Suddenly a glowing woman appeared in the river. Her eyes shimmered like stars. "Annulika, my daughter," she said softly. Anuli dropped to her knees. "Mother," she called. "I have waited long for this day," Queen Onima said. "If you are to defeat the darkness and revenge my death, dip the amulet inside the water now." As she dipped the amulet inside the river, the ground trembled, and from the ground rose up the crown of light. She grabbed and held it in her hand. The mother chanted, "The heart of a ruler knows no gender. Take the crown and return to Erze," and she disappeared. Anuli began her journey back to Erze. She ran as much as her legs could carry her. Meanwhile, inside Erzechi's underground shrine, Abidike was still held. He was bound hands and legs before the false king. Erzechi scornfully said, "You really thought love and destiny could save you? I will personally end your life today and that of Anuli, and no power or force will stop me." He boasted. Abidike gasped. "You are nothing but a false king. You wiped out your brother's household because of greed and your excessive hunger for power. Today the gods of the land will visit you with death." He weakly responded. Anuli finally emerged from the forest of whispers, and wears a crown of light on her head, the true crown of Omu-Erze kingdom. Mama IJ, who waited for her return, bowed. "Your Highness, you are ready now." But Anuli's voice shook as she asked, "Where is Abidike?" Silence. "He's is still with the king, and in few hours from now, they will execute him at the village square." "Not if I get there first." Anulika charged. Anuli, crowned by the gods and burning with destiny, charged like thunder through the ancient road to the village square, the sacred square where kings were once crowned and traitors executed. Madame IJ, who could not meet up Anuli's pace, walked as fast as she could. At the square, Derek, Abidike, bruised, bound, and kneeling, was facing Erzechi and his cruel guards, while unhappy villagers watched in anguish. "Your death will seal my rule," Erzechi spat. "Your blood will silence prophecy, and no one will ever rise again in the name of a true queen." Derek coughed, weak but unbroken. "You're afraid of her. That's why you want to silence her, but you can't stop us." "I am king," Erzechi hissed. In a flash, Anuli arrived, standing fearlessly, gazing and charging at King Erzechi. As Erzechi charged towards her, suddenly the crown on Anuli's head mysteriously turned to a glowing light and struck Erzechi. He fell down and didn't survive it. Instantly his reign came to an end. Anuli rushed to Abidike and untied him. There was celebration and jubilation all over Omu-Erze kingdom. The crowd erupted in chants. "Anulika! Nwada Omu-Erze! Anulika! The princess of Omu-Erze! Abidike! The crowned prince of Omu-Erze!" Peace returned to Omu-Erze. The kingdom was rebuilt. Derek, Abidike, the billionaire, single-handedly transformed Omu-Erze from typical local village to well-developed town. New homes were built for the poor. Schools and modern amenities were built. Overnight, Omu-Erze became a mini-city in the region. Abidike stood beside Anulika not as a prince, but as her equal and husband. And one evening, they were crowned together. Not just with gold, but with love, with purpose, with destiny fulfilled. The next day, the celebration continued. Queen Anulika looked at King Abidike passionately. "We are born to rule in love as one, my king. The gods are wise, my queen. They don't make mistakes. We were born with golden stars in our palms." He responded. Months later, the air in Omu-Erze was sweet with joy. The birds seemed to sing louder, the leaves danced more freely in the wind, and the hearts of the people beat with pride, for the day had finally come. Anuli, now known across kingdoms as the people's queen, weds the man who saw her not as a homeless beggar on the street, but as a woman of value, Derek, her beloved. It was a royal wedding that became the topic in the mouth of everybody who attended or heard about it. The palace was later transformed into a paradise of tradition and beauty. And so, a new chapter began, not just for Omu-Erze, but for the next generation. Anuli, the once homeless beggar, now ruled with wisdom. And Derek, the billionaire who once gave food to a homeless girl, had found the true gold of life, love and royalty. Never judge a person by their appearance or condition. The one begging today might be a royal in disguise. And sometimes, the one rejected by the world is the very one sent to save it. And from that day, it was known, royalty is not always born in gold, it is revealed through fire. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please kindly drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to African Tales by Bro Divine. Remain blessed.